Episode 4, Learning to Stash Your Money.
Welcome to Chain of Wealth. Here's your host, Dennis, inspiring you to begin your journey of financial freedom.
Hey Chainers, and welcome to another edition of Chain of Wealth. Today I've got a special guest. His name is Brandon Krieg from Stash Invest. Brandon is the CEO and co-founder of Stash Invest, an investment platform that helps over 1.2 million people simplify investing through education and an intuitive user experience. Learning how to invest in yourself is one of the hardest things we have to learn as individuals, and there's an area where there's very little know-how to the average investor. Welcome, Brandon.
Well, that's great. Thank you. Great introduction, and thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So, Brandon, before we dive into the heavy questions, tell me something we don't know about you. Tell us a bit about your personal life.
Well, let's see. I have two kids, 4 and a 3-year-old. I went to culinary school before this whole finance thing.
Oh, wow.
Years ago. It's pretty cool. That's something not a lot of people know about me. And I am an insanely diehard New York Rangers hockey fan. Fantastic. So I'm sorry if I annoy any of your guests, but listeners. But
well, I've always said you can't please everyone.
Exactly. But,
so, Brandon, diving into the questions. So, where did the idea for Stash Invest come from?
You know, the idea for Stash Invest really came when my partner and I, my co-founder and I, realized that for our entire lives, our non-finance friends have always asked us questions about investing. And I always kind of glossed it over, saying, hey, I work in the markets, I should know the answers to this. And one day in 2000, and it was like late 2014, Eddie and I had worked at a bank together. We were running a global trading business. And somebody that we both know asked us where they should put their money. The difference is this person worked in the markets. And so he said, something's wrong here. And the more we started talking to people about investing, the more we found out that it was something that people wanted to do, but they were just so completely overwhelmed with fear and just didn't understand it. And we decided that we needed to do something to fix it. So that's kind of the early kind of seedling that popped into our brain. And then once we kind of had this idea that we wanted to do something in investing, we both resigned from our jobs and literally just started walking around the street, asking people in New York City. And that's kind of where the idea was birthed, right in the streets of New York.
Investing, something that not enough millennials do in particular. They're one of the groups that they've seen their parents hurt by the financial crisis and they were very reluctant to invest. In fact, most of them have their money sitting in cash, which, as you all know, is the worst thing you could possibly do. So, Brandon, going back a little bit, if you could give the 18-year-old version of yourself one piece of advice, what would it be and why?
You know, it's funny. First of all, that's a great question. My answer to that would be this: I would have saved more. I would have gone out a little less and just tried a little harder to save money. And it's funny, it's the same advice I give our customers today. I think there are two ways to save. There are consumption-based saving models out there now that say spend a bunch of money and we'll help you save a little bit extra. I think if you don't need it, don't do it and save. I think back, and if I ran the numbers, if I had started at 18 just putting little bits away, I would have been in a much different situation, as I got older. So I would have saved a little bit more.
That's it. And the power of compounding has got such a strong effect on finances you actually don't understand. So 100%, the more money you can save the earlier on, the better you'll be later on in life. So let's dive a little bit into Stash Invest. Give us some insight as to what your company does.
Yeah, so, kind of continuing on from where the idea was, we kind of looked at our customer and said, well, how do we get someone to start investing if we don't teach them first? So Stash is really, it's a mobile app where people can come in, start investing with as little as $5, and also get a financial education. Because we believe that teaching our customers about all things money at the same time as they're investing little amounts on a regular basis is really driving home some core things. Number one, people don't have to have a lot of money to start. By putting $5 or $10 away every week consistently, it starts to add up to be a lot. And you mentioned compounding, and that's really important. And then the second thing is by investing little bits of money and learning and understanding as you go, you don't have to be fearful of timing the market because nobody can time the market. And what's really cool about this is that if the market goes down or the market goes up, you get to practice and learn something really important called dollar cost averaging. So we really just try to help our customers. Ultimately, we want to be part of all parts of our customers' financial lives. Right now, it's saving, investing, learning. And we recently opened up a retirement account as well. So people can save for retirement starting with $5.
Fantastic. And just to add a little bit more on that, if people don't know about the stock market and how much return it actually gives, since the inception of the stock market, there's been a return of, I think it's 10% every year, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I think the S&P, I think it's like the last 100 years, it's been about, it's about 8% over year. And that includes all of the bad years and all the good years. So it's incredible,
Right. So as a long-term something to invest in, it's definitely something that people should be looking at for their retirement.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we think so for our customers. And, we launched less than 2 years ago, and we have over 1.2 million customers now investing and saving. And it's really cool because what we didn't realize is that how big the problem is in this country. So you said something before I think is really important, right? When we launched, we thought it would be only millennials or much younger people using the platform. And what we found out is it's actually not true. Our average customer is 29 years old. And our customers kind of run the gamut. They're from 18 into their 60s and 70s. And when you ask them, why are you doing this, later in life, or why are you doing this so early in life? You kind of hear the same thing every time. It's, I never put any money away when I was younger, or I want to have money when I'm older. It's pretty cool.
Right. So when people think about investing and they think about the stock market, one thing that a lot of people think about is fees. So if people decide to put money into Stash Invest, how much are we talking about?
So when we were building it, we wanted to build, number one, a business that puts the customer first. So no shenanigans in the background where we're running, a trading book or, selling order flow. And so what we did is we decided to charge investing exactly like a subscription business runs. So we charge $1 a month for accounts that have less than $5,000. And that includes the entire financial education platform. We do not charge commission for trading. That's free. And we also don't charge to move money in and out. And we don't charge to close an account. So really you get a lot of stuff for $1 a month. And that's it. And when you have over $5,000 in your Stash account, we move to 25 basis points annualized, so per year. So we've tried to get this to be as cheap as possible, but at the same time, be able to invest continuously into optimize, our subscription model so that we can constantly reinvest in the education of our customers.
Fantastic. So for people that are thinking about investing, how do they know that the application is safe to use?
Well, Stash is a registered investment advisor and a broker-dealer. We don't hold the money. The money is held by a large clearing and custodian bank. And the accounts that people open on Stash are accounts that they open in their own name. So the securities are protected by SIPC, and extra free cash that's in Stash accounts is swept into an FDIC insured account. So, we can't guarantee the market's going to go up or down like that. We can't do. But what we can do is put all the safeguards in place to be a stable generational financial services company for our customers.
Right. So if we're going to start investing tomorrow, what would you say is the best strategy? Should it be something that you're sort of doing every month? Should you wait till you have a lump sum? Or, is it something that you just want to do as you go along?
All right. So there's a lot to this, and I'll start by saying we do not think you should start with a lump sum. And the reason for that is if you start with a lump sum and you put all your money in at one time, you don't know what the market's going to do tomorrow or next week or next month. So having said that, we believe that everybody should start investing on stash and start putting a little bit of money away on a weekly basis. And I mentioned this before, and this is called dollar cost averaging. So you continuously are buying your investments no matter what the market does. So the market goes up, great, you buy more. The market goes down, great, you buy more. And that's over time, you get the average price and you participate in all of the moves of the market. And it takes a lot of the stress away. And I really, my best advice to the listeners here is just start. The worst thing you could do is not start. Because, 5-10 years ago, companies like Stash didn't exist. So you had to be rich or have a lot of money to invest. So we've kind of taken that away. So by putting in $5 to start, you can get going. An average Stash customer now is investing $22 a week.
That's fantastic. So just to give people a little bit of insight as to why they should buy if the market's gone down. If the market's gone down, all it means is that you're going to be buying the exact same item for cheaper. Imagine if you went into a store and the iPhone suddenly dropped $200. It's still an iPhone at the end of the day, so it still makes sense to buy it. You're actually saving money by doing that in the long run.
Exactly. I mean, that's the most important thing. And I think, when people think about trading and investing are much different things. And I've been on Wall Street as a professional trader and someone who built technology for professional traders. It's really hard to beat the pros. But what's really great is if you just take a long view in something and invest over time. And it's just so important to people to do that, not to trade.
Great stuff. So let's just talk a bit about terms now. For our listeners that don't know, what exactly is a dividend? A
dividend is when a company makes a profit and they distribute those profits to shareholders. Now, sometimes, a company will not distribute the dividends because they need the money. They need the money to build a new factory, or they need the money to go buy back their own shares in the market. But a lot of larger, more established companies do pay a dividend. Most of them pay it quarterly. So think about it as a way to participate in the earnings of the company and buy more shares with that money. So it's a way to keep adding to your position in the company.
Awesome. And looking at the tax benefit or difference, if I were to get a dividend versus receiving interest, what is the difference in tax?
Well, I mean, I think that there's a lot of people have different situations when it comes to dividends and interest. So I would say that probably see your accountant, but I would, the best place if you're thinking about getting heavy dividends or really maximizing interest and you're young, do it in a retirement account because that way you don't pay taxes on it. But in dividends and interest, you're going to pay some taxes. That's for sure.
Chainers, I hope you've been enjoying this. We're just going to take a quick break and say thanks to our sponsors. But right after that, we're going straight back into the value link round.
Chainers, are you stuck with debt and trying to find a way out? Head over to chainofwealth.com/debt. We've written an awesome definitive guide to debt, teaching you everything you need to know to become debt-free and master your finances. Head over to chainofwealth.com/debt.
Awesome. Let's jump right back into it. So, Brandon, why do people fail?
People fail in business, and I had just talked about this with someone. They fail in business because they stop listening to their customers. They fail in life. I think people fail because they stop listening. And I think, for me, people's egos can be a real problem when they stop listening. And getting feedback and taking both good and bad feedback from people can make people better.
That's so important. And I think it's just a basic principle that people miss so often. Listen to whoever it is. Just take in information and listen. In fact, I actually heard a recent marketing professional. His name is Neil Patel. And one of his famous quotes is, "Don't sell a mattress, sell a better night's sleep." And I think that talks so much to everything you do in life. Always think about, how am I adding value and how are you actually getting something out of it at the end of the day? So straight into the next question. What books or other podcasts do you recommend to our listeners?
One of the most powerful books that I've ever read, and it sets the foundation for how we built Stash, is called Lean Startup. And Lean Startup is really about listening. It goes back to your last question. How do you build software and build a business that people actually want? And how do you solve real pain and be the painkiller for that pain? And you do that by listening and iterating and evolving based on feedback you're getting, both good and bad, from your customers. And that's Lean Startup is a fabulous book. I love it. I recommend it highly to everybody.
Awesome. So talking about advice, what's the best advice that someone ever gave you or that you've ever heard?
It would come from my father, and it would be, in his words, "Don't be a schmuck. You're wasting all of your money." When I was younger, just making stupid purchases and just doing dumb things with money, and where, like we talked about before, I could have saved it, and I could have used it a lot, more as I got older and built a family. So when I was younger, I didn't have a lot of foresight into, what my life would become. And I think about my dad all the time when he says that to me.
Brandon, you've been fantastic on the show. Is there any other last piece of knowledge or advice you'd like to share with our listeners when investing their money?
The best advice is to start investing. That's just really the number one thing. There are so many people in this country right now who feel overwhelmed and afraid and are putting it off because they think they need to be rich. And we will here to tell you, Stash will tell you, you don't need to be rich to invest, because the world has changed. And everyone should have a right to have a better future and to have a good amount of money saved up for life events and retirement. And there's only one way to do that. It's to just put little amounts of money away on a regular basis and keep learning.
Fantastic. So Brandon, what's the best way to get in touch with you or Stash?
Yeah, your listeners can write me directly. I use an email with the rest of the Stash team. It's team@stashinvest.com. We read all the email. I would love for people want to reach out to us, or go to www.stashinvest.com and check out our website. There's some great learning and educational materials on there. And hit us up if you have questions.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brandon. Chainers, check out Stash Invest. Go have a look and start investing today. It's going to make all the difference for you in later life.
Chainers, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate and review our podcast. Catch you on the flip side.